Well, I want to talk about the geopolitical consequences of the war, because one of the main worries for Western nations is Iran, who themselves have warned Israel of a regional escalation if their military were to launch a ground invasion of Gaza. So should we be concerned by Iran, who've so far denied any involvement in Hamas attacks on Israel? Well, someone who's been analysing this, because he is a defence analyst, is Stuart Crawford. Good afternoon to you, Stuart. Thanks for talking to me this afternoon on GB News. What is your reading then? Does Iran really want to get directly involved in this conflict, or is it flexing its muscles?
Good afternoon. I think quite clearly the latter. The one thing that Iran does not want is to enter the conflict directly, because that will bring it into direct confrontation with the USA. And if push comes to shove, there will be only one winner in that contest, and it won't be Iran. But what it is doing is as you said, it's flexing its muscles. Is a big backer of Hezbollah in South Lebanon, as we all know, and it also backs the Houthi rebels in Yemen. And it's interesting that the USS Carney, a United States naval cruise anti-missile destroyer in the North Sea, the Red Sea, has knocked down several incoming missiles directed, we think, towards Israel from the Houthi rebels, and those weapons supplied by Iran. So yes, Iran is flexing its muscles, but I don't think it has any real desire at this point to become directly involved.
What would change that then for Iran to get directly involved?
Well, that's difficult to say. I think it would have to sense weakness on behalf of the USA to become involved in yet another war in the world, already deeply involved, obviously, in Ukraine and in Syria. And there's always the ongoing tension between Taiwan and China. And I think if Iran sensed that there was any sort of weakness in US resolve, then it might be persuaded to become directly involved in the Gaza conflict. But I think that's unlikely at the moment, because the USA obviously has a massive deterrent force in its two carrier groups in the Eastern Mediterranean at the moment.
But of course, this what we keep talking about, this expected ground offensive in Gaza by the Israeli military, hasn't actually happened yet. If and when it does, do you expect Iran to respond in some way?
Well, it says it's going to respond, but I think that's probably just a bit of a bluff, actually. I've got no doubt that the Israeli military, the IDF, is absolutely champing at the bit to get started. But obviously the diplomatic interventions by President Joe Biden, Rishi Sunak and others has stayed their hand, if you like. But from a military point of view, they'll be raring to go and get on with this and get it completed as soon as they possibly can. I thought it would have started by now. It hasn't, but I can't see it lasting. I can't see it not starting within the next few days.
Do you think perhaps it was a case of the leaders have come in, Joe Biden, the German Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, and now those diplomatic leaders, I know there's the peace summit in Cairo, but now those leaders have left. We did hear that President Macron might go, but we've heard no more about that. Is that, now they've departed, is that when we could see something happen?
Yes, I think that's. I mean, I think that any military action that the IDF had undertaken while Joe Biden's plane, Air Force One, was still on the tarmac would not have been a good look. But you talk about the peace conference in Cairo. It's interesting that neither the US or Iran or indeed the UK, the UK has been represented by James Cleverly, but the US and Iran are not going to be there. So I don't think it's going to stop the Israelis doing what they need to do and what I suspect they want to do in the very near future.
And do you think this peace summit in Cairo can achieve anything? Like you say, some of the big people, they're not present there.
Yes, they're not, and in the final analysis, I think that whether we like it or not, or whether they like it or not, the US is the world's policeman, and people look to them to take the lead. And until the US comes down one way or other, and they've come down very firmly on the side of Israel against the Hamas terrorists, then I don't think there's any chance of this military action not happening. But in the end, like, all wars are ended by compromise and negotiation, and that will be the eventual end of this current conflict.
Defence analyst Stuart Crawford, really appreciate your insight this afternoon. Thanks so much for talking to me.